Warning. Censorship. Warning.
You can't travel on a train.
I can travel on a train. I have an exemption.
Come with me.
Excuse me. That is my bag. Give me my fucking bag.
I'm going to take your bag outside the railway station. So keep filming.
Do you feel like a really big man? Do you feel like a big man? You've just taken a young girl's bag off her because she won't present a mask exemption to you. My immediate emotional response was, no, that's my property. What you've done is wrong. You can't even have my property. This is just going too far. And I was so overwhelmed. Like, the emotion, it was just intense.
The video you're about to watch is probably one of the most egregious abuses of police power in New South Wales in the name of COVID so far. You need to watch it from beginning to end, hear the breakdown from a lawyer, and then share it far and wide, because the mainstream media, well, they're not going to share it, and they're certainly not going to break it down for you. A young mother in Newcastle, New South Wales, was on a train alone when police confronted her for not wearing a mask. This is what happened.
We're on public transport, you're supposed to be wearing a mask.
That's
okay?
fine. I have an exemption. I don't need a mask.
Have you?
I have an exemption. I don't need to show
And
you
what's
my
your
exemption. I have asthma. I'm an asthma sufferer. I don't wear a mask ever.
All right.
So, I'm sorry.
Well, you can't travel on a train.
I can travel on a train. I have an exemption. I have an exemption.
Do you need to film?
Pardon? Do you need to film? He's filming. I'm not a threat to
need
you.
to, do you?
I'm a single person on the train without a mask on because I have an exemption.
That's all right. We'll
That's
take
fine.
your details.
You don't have to take my details. I don't need.
We'll
I'm
be
not.
taking your details.
I'm not obliged to give you my details. I know my rights. I know my rights.
I'm sure you do.
Yes. So you can ask away. You are not getting my details, and I do not need to give you my mask exemption. I don't even need to speak to you.
Come with me.
Excuse me. That's my personal bag.
Yep, come with me.
Excuse me. You can't do this.
Come with me.
I don't need to. Excuse me. That is my bag.
So now I have your
now,
attention.
now you
So
have
now
my
I have your
bag.
attention.
You have
Can
my
you please
bag.
give us some identification?
No, I can't. I'm not giving you identification. That is my bag. Give me
Keep
my
filming.
fucking bag.
Keep filming.
Give me my bag.
Keep filming.
Why are you doing this, please? You don't need to do this. I think I was just in disbelief. That's all I can describe it as.
It was pretty shocking, and it was confronting to watch, and we're sorry that it happened to you. Why didn't you just give him your name and address?
Well, I was under the impression that, you know, according to the guidelines, I was doing what I was meant to do.
The police derive their powers when exercising authority in relation to this COVID-19 lockdown from the Public Health Act 2010. Now, Section 112 of that Act does create a power for police officers to direct a person that they suspect has committed or may be committing an offence under the Act, such as not following a public health order, such as wearing masks, to provide their name and address, specifically to state their name and address to the police officer. Now, in doing so, the police officer can ascertain whether or not they want to move forward with an investigation. So if you're given a direction to state your name and address, the police have the authority to give you that direction. However, they do not have the power under Section 112 to require you to produce documentation on the spot, either evidencing your medical exemption or something else. They don't have the power to require you to produce your license under that provision. Now, if an authorised officer in the course of their investigation wishes to require a person to answer a specific question in relation to the public health orders or demand specific documents from a person, Section 110 and 111 of the Public Health Act require that it must be in writing to the person. So they cannot just verbally or on that sort of impromptu basis ask you to produce evidence of your exempt status or of your identification. Now, a person who refuses to give their name and address to police is without reasonable cause. Obviously, if they have a reasonable excuse not to give it, that's fine. But a person who generally just refuses can be liable to an offence and can be liable to prosecution. And it can include a fine of up to $5,500 for an individual who just refuses, or $11,000 for a person who gives fraudulent information. But with that said, it should also be noted, and it's relevant for this case, Section 114 of the Act does actually provide that a person is not guilty of an offence for failing to comply with the direction, unless the person was first warned on the occasion that a failure to comply with a direction under Section 112 is an offence. Now, in this case, we have a perfect example of that. She wasn't read the direction according to Section 112 that she needs to state specifically her name and her address, and she also was not given a warning that she would be committing an offence if she doesn't give her name and her address. Those are very important elements in this case, and if she does receive a fine, it would be an absolutely perfect scenario for her, in my opinion, to defend that in court.
If it does follow up with a fine, we have a program at fightthefines.com.au where people crowdfund, people donate. You've probably seen it. And we fight for people in your case, and we will happily take on your case if they do follow through with a fine on either of those matters, whether it's the COVID or your name and address.
I have an exemption. I don't need to show you
What's
my
your
exemption. I have asthma. I'm an asthma sufferer. I don't wear a mask.
It should have ended there. It shouldn't have escalated. There was
According
no
to the
reason for them to tell. According to the guidelines, there's no reason that they pulled you up and told you can't travel on the train. That's absolutely false. That's from where I'm sitting. I'm watching that. I can see that to be a clear tactic of intimidation.
The carve-out that the public health order creates is that people are generally required to wear masks unless they have a medical reason not to, which means that a police officer seeing two people, one wearing a mask and one not wearing a mask, should generally be presuming that both are following the public health order, unless there is a reason not to actually believe that. So if the person isn't wearing the mask and they inquire about it, and the person is abrasive or gives some unqualified reason, the police officer might then have a reasonable suspicion. But when a person has asserted that they have a medical or a psychological condition, the police officers should be satisfied by that, according to the law.
They certainly shouldn't be telling you that now you are not allowed to ride the train.
Well, no, I mean, I can't find any authority for them kicking her off the train under these circumstances. And the grabbing of her bag actually, in this case, could amount to a tort as a trespass to the person and to her property. So the reality is there's a lot of legal avenues here that need to be addressed. And the New South Wales Police really have put their foot in it on this one, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
That's okay, and hang in there. It is, like I said, it is easy for people to sit in the comfort of their home anywhere across the country and say, oh, well, then she started shouting, or she should have just given her name and address. But in the moment when you feel like you've done everything according to the rules, getting the exemption, letting them know you have the exemption, following what the guidelines say in the fact that you don't even need to carry the exemption on you. Why should you have to carry the exemption that you don't need? It's between you and your doctor. You don't need to show everybody that asks you your private medical information. You did that right. Then there's the question of now the name and address, but it's easy to sit there and say, well, she should have just given it. Well, it's not your life on the line here. It was Nick this time. And Nick, we will stand with you no matter which way this goes. So know that the Fight the Fines program is here for you. If something happens, you let us know, and we will get straight into bat for you, as we've done with now over 2,000 cases around the world. Rebel News has gone in and taken on to fight the exact kind of fines that you could potentially face following this story. So thank you. Stay safe.
Good people
and
doing
you let
good
us know
things.
if you need us.
Thanks so much, Avi. You have a good afternoon.
We did let Nick know that if a fine does come, we will happily defend her and fight for her, because it was a distressing video, to say the least, especially the way they berated her at the end and grabbed her bag. And now hearing that they had zero legal ground makes it even more outrageous. Thank you for your time, Cameron, and thank you for all the work you do at fightthefines.com.au.
Once again, it's my pleasure, Avi.
If you think Nick's story is important for everyone to see, make sure to share it far and wide, because again, the mainstream media will not tell it because it doesn't suit their narrative. They love these lockdowns and they love the COVID enforcement. And if you want to help out people in Nick's situation who have been fined, or potentially Nick when that fine does come, please visit fightthefines.com.au and help us crowdfund those cases. Fightthefines.com.au, give what you can, and we'll fight for as many Aussies as possible.